Good evening all and welcome to the March 5th, 2024 board meeting. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Brady, would you please lead us today?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we could all have keep standing for a moment of silence as we pray for those that are defending our freedoms all across the world and our first responders who are out there every day at risk to making sure that we could live in safety as we are accustomed to. Amen. Okay, we'll start with introductions to my right.
Good evening, Diana Quast, Town Clerk.
Deputy Supervisor Ed Lachterman.
Sergio Esposito, Councilman.
Luciana Howitt, Councilwoman.
Patrick Murphy, Councilman.
Adam Rodriguez, Town Attorney.
Dave Paganelli, Yorktown Highway Superintendent.
All right. So for my report for the town, I will say that we have some exciting things coming down the pike in the next couple of weeks. So we'll be doing some announcements. But we did have some things over the last 2 weeks since our last meeting. We had a new restaurant open in town, the X Sushi Express, right across the street from Starbucks, and they have some really good sushi, beautiful restaurant, and lots of actually interesting beverages as well from all over the Orient. So some great things there. The Chamber of Commerce had a really nice mixer at Aragon Rose, which is the old winery. It's now a brewery. Some excellent food, great conversation. They had probably 30 businesses there that were networking and working together, and just a really, really great time. And we thank our chamber. And a reminder for those who want to go, they do have a breakfast mixer on the first Wednesday of each month, which is tomorrow. And that's at the Mohegan Lake Diner. It's $20 for members and I believe $25 for non-members. A week ago Saturday, I was able to go with Senator Terrence Murphy over to our library, over to St. Mary's Food Bank, and from his turkey trot, he raised $12,000, which was distributed between St. Mary's for those fighting food insecurity, and another $6,000 went to United for the Troops as his two agencies that he was working with this year. Really nice to participate. I know this year Terrence wasn't here, so he had his stand-ins with Patrick and Tommy, and they did a great job. Really was a fantastic event. It was so busy they ran out of numbers for people, and it was really great to see. That's right. Ken, did you get a number, Ken? I know you ran. Okay, Ken got his. He gets there early. We did have a couple of sad things, but one of them, we had a World War II vet, Michael Diastis, pass away. And it was sad, but, he lived a very full life. He was, I believe, 98 years old. But I say, remarkable how his neighbors at Jefferson Village, his friends, and in particular Paula Miratello and her fiancé Kenny from my brother Vinny, all cared for him at the end of his life and really made sure that he was cared for. And we put something up on, because he outlived his entire family. And we put something up on Facebook inviting people to the funeral mass at St. Pat's on Monday. And there were well over 100 people in attendance. So it was really, really nice to see the respect paid to one of our veterans. We also recently lost Ed Speedy Fogden from our Mohegan Lake Volunteer Fire Department. Speedy was the one who always drove the antique truck in the parade. And actually, Patrick and I went to the wake, and unfortunately, we were given the wrong time, so we were there about 3 hours early. But we were able to pay our respects at least, and a big loss for our community, and we ask God to hold both Mike and Speedy close. We did on Friday, we had the completion of our courthouse steps finally unveiled. And Donna, thank you for cutting the ribbon there. That was a labor of love of Tom. He wanted to make sure it got done and got done right. And it really did. And I thank the board for all of their work on that as well. And it was great to see that get finished off, and much safer, much nicer look to it, and we're very happy about that. And then we're probably going to have some questions. There's a project going on off of Route 35. It's an MS4. It's a wastewater project where we're getting phosphorus out of the water supply. So what happens is they're building a filtration system into there. Unfortunately, there was a little confusion, and they never came in for a pre-construction meeting, so they did not get their final permits. We had to stop the job, but we're going to be moving some of that later to get that going. Two things, or three things I want to talk about. March 15th, we have Yorktown Police Department is collecting for Captain Kenneth Scroy Act of Kindness Day donations. They have two agencies that they're working with this year. One is Support Connection, as we all know, and the other we all know as well is United for the Troops. So there's on their website, you could find a list for United for the Troops of things that they're looking for to send overseas to our soldiers. Of course, you could always donate cash, gift cards, things that they could utilize, and both agencies do a lot of great work in our community. So that's Kenneth Scroy, Act of Kindness Day, and you could drop things off at the police station. And on the 15th, they'll be doing a little ceremony on the front steps, the newly renovated front steps. And then the Lions have two events that I wanted to mention for those of you with kids and grandkids. We have baked treats with the Easter Bunny on March 16th, and you have the Easter egg hunt in conjunction with the Yorktown Parks and Recreation, and that is on March 23rd. You could find that information on the Lions website and the Easter egg hunt on both the Lions and Parks and Recreation. And that is it for me.
All right. Well, we got a bunch of things going on. We have a grand opening. It's going to be this Thursday at 5:30. Loco Cantina. It's located right next to the old Turcos. It's going to be a Mexican restaurant, which is something we don't have here. So I'm looking forward to it. It's my understanding that it's going to be family run, and I think one of the owners actually has a different restaurant in Mamaroneck or Portchester or something like that. So it's a family that's got a history with restaurants, and I'm excited that it'll be a different venue. It's not a pizza shop, as everybody always says to me. What do we got? Another pizza shop? Sushi Express, ex-Sushi Express.
Yes.
Great grand opening there, and I hear their sushi is like unbelievable.
It is.
So support the locals. You know, that's my motto, and you don't get any more local than Jack, who opened up ex-Sushi Express. So let's show him the love, and I would appreciate it. There's a pancake breakfast coming up with our great friends at the Grange. It's going to be to celebrate Maple Weekend, New York State Maple Weekend. So they really do a great breakfast, so it's really worth it. March 16th and 17th, and the 23rd and the 24th. There are 3 seatings, 9, 10, and 11. Children under 3 are free. You're going to eat a lot. And, again, there's no better people than the Grange, and they really deserve our love and support. So if you could get over there, you're going to enjoy the meal, and you're going to support an organization that's been in Yorktown for 100 years, right? So let's get over there. The courthouse steps are very nice. I got some good news. I met with Rich Falcone from building. He introduced me to a contractor, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be getting new kennels for the dogs at the police station. So they're going to get an upgrade back there. The current kennels are really in bad shape. So we were there today. We had a meeting, and we got the concrete donated. We're looking to get a brand new fence donated. The labor is going to be donated. It's really going to be an upgrade for our police dogs. So we're looking forward to that. And I think I'm going to end it there, so this way we could.
I just want to throw one thing in that the pancake breakfast is a farm to table, and the maple syrup is produced right here in Yorktown. So really good stuff.
All right. Hey, great seeing all you guys. A lot of familiar faces out there, a lot of smiles. Happy to be here and happy to see all of you. Thank you.
Okay. I guess I echo everything that they've said so far. It's amazing that it's already March. I can't believe how fast this year is already going. With that being said, if anyone's looking for a summer part-time job, please check out our Parks and Rec for our summer camps and our lifeguards. We always need support. We're trying our best to not only offer multiple different types of programs, such as like hula hooping with Kate, where we can teach about social esteem and how to stay in your own hula hoops. As a therapist, I really believe everybody needs to be in their own hula hoop. So I think that's a cool thing to go ahead and just add to what's happening. We're looking for camp counselors. We're looking for camp directors. We're looking for lifeguards and any lifeguard staffs. So if you have a friend, a neighbor, a teen who's looking to boost their CPR licensing and wants to join, I promise I will waive. I'll even bring cookies, but we would love to see them there. As far as Easter coming along its way, along with the Lions, there's this great submission of how to decorate your own Easter egg. We're going to be setting out a downloadable egg. Your children can participate from kindergarten all the way up to, I think it's 5th grade, and they can decorate it and submit it, and then they can win a prize. And it's kind of interesting how it goes on. Only it becomes the wall art of our brochure, but the kid gets to really enjoy the fact that they've done it. And sometimes parents join in too. We can say that we're smarter than a 5th grader, and our Parks and Rec will, be entertained by it. We also have great stuff happening. Last weekend, we had Read Across America. Yeah, Paganelli. So Assemblyman Mr. Slater and Dave Paganelli, our highway superintendent, were there with Pete the Cat. And as you read Across America, that was able to be pushed. We weren't able to attend, my family and I, but I was able to read with my children and then show them the pictures that Dave was actually holding the book with Pete the Cat nearby. And they love that very much. Our library is also having their Giving Day. The Library Giving Day takes place on April 3rd, but it's all year round in order to keep these kind of foundations open for us so that we can have both groupings for our seniors or book clubs for our moms and dads and neighbors, or even just for our children to go in and learn. We have the Friends of the John C. Hart Library, and they, just like the Friends of Parks and Rec, stand there to not only collect but also to give back. So I highly suggest you take a moment. It's just one click away. We all have Apple Pay. Send it over, and your 10, 12, couple zeros goes a really long way with our library. So again, that's April 3rd, but you can donate any day, including today. And last but not least, by the way, Teen Night is having trivia night. Okay, so if for all my moms and dads and neighbors and friends with teens, check out the Teen Center. They're offering trivia night, and there's something really, really, really fun about being in competitions like Wheel of Fortune with your teens and funds, and that's going to be great. And
Fridays at 5:30.
Yes, that's
at
right.
the Capellini Center.
Yeah, and you can log on to know what the trivia is. And then last but not least, let's all gather around for April 26th. It looks like the groundhog did say that spring is launching in, and we have Arbor Day coming our way. So we're really excited about that here in Patriot Park. That's all I got.
All right. Just to bring you up to speed on the schools, the Prop 1 and 2 passed. Everybody knows that. Now they're in the budget season. They're had 2 meetings. They're going to have 2 more, and then they're going to have a public discussion, and then the vote is on May 13th. The American Legion is going to have a St. Patrick's corned beef dinner this Sunday at 1 to 4. It's going to be a fundraiser for the vets there. And last but not least,
That's for pickup only.
Oh, pickup only.
So you order, you pick up. They have single dinners and families of 4, extra soda bread available, and for those of legal drinking age, also beer.
yes.
I think they're having green cannolis too.
Uh,
That's what I heard. That's
Right, Patrick.
So, but last but not least, I just want to reiterate what Ed said about Mike when he's a World War II vet. He passed away, had no family, and all he wanted was a police escort and people in the church. And within literally 48 hours, there was 100 people there, and Chief stepped up and he gave the police escort. It was, it reinforces why I ran for town board. This town is very unique, and to throw that together in 24 hours, it was pretty significant. So it
Absolutely.
was a good job.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Okay.
Dave, anything to?
Thank you for hitting on the East of Hudson thing. A lot of people have been calling Highway regarding a sign that's at the bottom of Ridge Street, wondering why there is a presidential sign on our roads. Fact of the matter is that's a federally funded project. What I refer to as another unfunded mandate. Unfortunately, they will provide the money to build it, and our great-great-great-grandchildren will continue to maintain it. So I'm not a big fan. That being said, I just had to make my point. That being said, we will be closing Old Crom Pond Road once again on Monday the 11th and Tuesday the 12th from 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. That will be, the schools are aware of it. That will be in order to facilitate boring. We are moving forward with hopefully getting that culvert repaired sometime in the, while I'm still alive, God willing, but that's that. So, and Pete the Cat was awesome. It was really fun reading to the kids. Always enjoy that. And just, the Old Crom Pond Road thing is the most important thing to remember. You'll be going down there. The detours. You had it for 4 months. We're just going to close the road. We're not setting up all the detours. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks.
All right, we have some proclamations.
Sure. Women's History Month. Whereas the month of March is observed nationally as Women's History Month to promote equality and celebrate women's roles in history and society. And whereas Women's History Month honors and celebrates the achievements of American women throughout the history of the United States, who have struggled for over 200 years to gain rights, not simply for themselves, but for the many other underrepresented groups in America. And whereas this year's theme of Women's History Month is Women Who Advocate for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, as this theme recognizes the invaluable contributions of the women who have dedicated themselves to advocating for equity, diversity, and inclusion in all aspects of society. And whereas in 2024, we honor the women who have tirelessly worked to dismantle barriers, challenge prejudices, and create opportunities for all individuals, regardless of their background. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Yorktown proclaims March 2024 as Women's History Month in the Town of Yorktown.
Thank you, Lou.
All right. Second one, I had to fight Sergio for this one, but I got it. So this is the Irish American Heritage Month. Whereas the town of Yorktown celebrates March as Irish American Heritage Month, and whereas millions of Irish passed through Ellis Island, entering New York City in the 19th century, fleeing hunger and injustice in their country, and whereas one of the first immigrants to pass through Ellis Island was Annie Moore, a 17-year-old from County Cork, Ireland. And whereas in 1762, Irish New Yorkers have celebrated and cherished the Feast of St. Patrick every March 17th, which stands for a day of celebration in the Irish heritage and shares tradition with young generations. Whereas Irish Americans have defended our nation, most notably through the Irish Brigade, which originally consisted of the 63rd, the Fighting 69th, the 88th Infantry of New York, whose members fought in Civil War, World War I, World War II, and Iraq. Whereas the Irish immigrants of America have contributed greatly to the American society, to the state of New York, the town of Yorktown. And whereas the Irish Americans are deeply committed to family values, community, and exhibit an incredible work ethic and shown through their contributions to the town society. Not now.
Legal jargon.
Yeah. I'm getting used to this. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board of the town of Yorktown proclaims March 2024 Irish American Heritage Month in the town of Yorktown.
Yay.
Hey. Thank you.
And if it was up to me, the shepherd's pie would have sauce, not gravy. It's sauce. It's the sauce. All right. Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. Whereas Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month is recognized each March to promote respect for people with developmental disabilities and bring awareness of the barriers that people with developmental disabilities can face. And whereas developmental disabilities are a group of conditions relating to physical, learning, language, or behavior that last throughout a person's lifetime, such as ADHD, autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, intellectual disability, learning disability, and other disabilities. And whereas people with developmental disabilities should be treated with dignity and respect and should have the resources needed to live secure, fulfilling lives, and have access to their communities and services needed. And whereas stereotyping, discrimination, and bullying toward individuals with developmental disabilities is a nationwide problem. And whereas awareness of barriers people with developmental disabilities can face in participating in the community and collaboration on how to overcome those barriers can bring about broader inclusion and better outcomes for everyone. And whereas Yorktown is a community that is dedicated to fostering acceptance and welcome of all residents and preventing discrimination and bullying. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board of the town of Yorktown proclaims March 2024 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month in the town of Yorktown.
Great. Thank you, Sergio.
Thank you, Sergio.
All right, Mr. McMillan.
Thank you. And I'll relate to Irish American Heritage Month. Irish voice. I used to get angry, or at least perturbed, with my wife of Philadelphia birth and German Polish heritage. That was a nasty combination. I was neither family approved, but the union produced a goddess would refer to me as Irish. I'm not Irish, I would bellow. I'm an American. The Irish killed each other for religious reasons, used the feast of a Catholic saint to get drunk and foolish, as if we needed an excuse, and were just generally disreputable. I refused to wear green on St. Patrick's Day and generally disavowed my heritage. I know little of this heritage other than the fact that the British had overrun them and made them part of the empire. But they had done that to Canadians, Australians, Indians, and they never became objects of jokes and ridicule. I didn't understand the difference between the Revolution and the Civil War. In short, I might as well have become a Brit. Of course, I grew up in an Irish Catholic neighborhood. Thank my maker that my four grandparents got on the Botan Islands, drank in all the bars, to listen to Ruthie Morrissey sing songs of rebellion in Mickey Carton's Mayo House in Rockaway, and behave like all the rest of the mix. It was only when I began to read the poetry and literature of Moore, Synge, Yeats, and Thomas that I began to feel the culture that already flowed through my veins. When I read Bernadette Devlin's writing of the present-day economic inequities, my anger boiled. And when I read the works of the McCourts, I began to understand from whence I came. So if you're not Irish, Sergio, I respect your heritage, but I'm sorry for your troubles.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Job
John.
well done, John.
So next up, we have some discussion. There've been quite a few recommendations on how to recognize Tom in our town. All of them very good. I know I've spoken to everyone up here individually about these, and we've had discussion on, hey, what are your feelings? I thought it was appropriate to bring it to the meeting, have a little discussion about it, and one of them involves our Parks and Recreation Department and our commission, and the department, and they're here today as well. So, I'd like to bring some of them to the table and let everyone know what was recommended. I will say though that this is just a this is just a glimpse into what Tom Diana meant to the town of Yorktown, and what the town of Yorktown meant to Tom. So it's very, very touching and fitting that we have these, and people out there looking to recognize Tom, and it's very much appreciated from all of our points of view that was something there. So we'll start close to home. And today I believe I received actually 2 emails about it, but I've had I think 4 other people speak about possibly naming Town Hall and/or the strip outside on Underhill Street after Tom. We also had someone say we could rename Barger Street because then everyone will pronounce it right as Tom Diana Way, because we know how Tommy hated Barger. So that was there as well. There was a recommendation of Stony Street. One of the things that I thought of was a strip of road that I thought meant quite a bit to Tommy on East Main Street, from the Lakeland Deli right by the 9/11 Memorial, which Tommy helped an Eagle Scout do the roof there. The new stone that was put in. Go down the road a little bit, you have the Christmas tree that Tom was so proud of and did such a great job with, and then had to replant this year and make sure, last year, and make sure that he had a live tree and took care of that. And just down from there, next to the library, is our World War II Memorial, which, if you haven't seen, and I know we have Beth and Brian D., I know they know it very well, as they're there every year. I believe there are 6 Dianas on that monument that fought for our country in World War II. So I thought that was pretty appropriate. And then there was one other, which I'll pass over to Diana to talk about, since she initiated that as well.
I'm going to go down to the podium for this.
Sure.
On January 10th, 2024, I emailed a letter to the Parks and Recreation Superintendent and asked that he forward my request to the Recreation Commission. I'm just going to read my letter because it says it all for me. I am requesting that the Granite Knoll Sports and Recreation Complex be renamed in memory of Town Supervisor Thomas P. Diana. His untimely passing has left a hole in the hearts of many in our community, and Granite Knolls Playground and the proposed sensory garden were projects that were near and dear to his heart. He served our community wholeheartedly, with dignity and respect. He gave his all in everything that he did and deserves recognition for his outstanding service to our community. There wasn't a day that went by that Tom did not talk about the park and how it was designed to serve people with all abilities. His desire to create a place for all was not only admirable, but forward-thinking in creating spaces that everyone in our community can enjoy. My request is to rename Granite Knoll Sports and Recreation Complex to the following: Supervisor Tom Diana Park at Granite Knoll Sports and Recreation Complex. I hope that the Parks and Recreation Commission, along with the Town Board, will consider renaming Granite Knolls Park in Tom's honor and move forward on this request so that we can recognize the outstanding accomplishments that he gave to our community in what many believe to be a fitting and appropriate manner. I also started a petition because I feel the community input is very important when you're requesting to rename a public facility. I'm going to ask Brian and Joanne Sillick to help. I asked Brian and Joanne Sillick to help with reaching out to the community and obtain signatures for this request. And I thank them and all the residents who helped them and who signed the petition. At this time, I'm going to call Brian and Joanne up to the podium to share with everyone the outcome of that petition. I also want to take a moment to thank Genesis Jewelers for engraving Tommy's nameplate for the supervisor's plaque that's hanging on the wall behind the town board. He did that today for us. at no charge for the town, and we're very thankful for that. Thank you.
Good evening, Joanne.
Good evening, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to see so many of you here this evening. Joanne Sillick, Yorktown Heights. Yorktown residents are still dealing with the untimely death of our beloved supervisor, Tom Deanna. I was asked by Diana Quast to circulate a petition to rename Granite Knolls in his memory. I agreed to do so, knowing that Donna Diana approved of this location. Granite Knolls was Tom's special project. He was very involved in maintaining the grounds, weed whacking, fixing planters, wearing boots when walking in the mud, never afraid to get his hands dirty. This location was very dear to his heart. There was overwhelming support for this project. When people heard of the petitions, they asked if they could participate in getting signatures, and they did, and they're sitting here tonight. They approached me when they heard of it. We were all over Yorktown. DeChico's, Uncle Giuseppe's, Jefferson Village, Wynwood, Stonegate, etc. Walking around, we were able to get the pulse of the people. Many thanked us, standing out there in the cold, offering us hot chocolate and hot coffee. One lady told me she was not of the same party affiliation, but gladly signed the petition, saying, and I'm paraphrasing, Tom was devoted and served our community honestly and fairly, always listening to both sides. He deserves this recognition. And now I wonder how many other people were of a different party affiliation and just didn't bother to tell me. It's strictly bipartisan. This was a wonderful, good human being that served us, all of us in Yorktown, for so many years. I am one of many volunteers here tonight. We are very grateful to all of you for all you did. Knocking on doors, walking up and down stairs, standing out in the cold, obtaining all these signatures. Could I ask you, the volunteers, please stand up. You deserve a round of applause. Please stand. Oh, if there's anybody that wants to come up, I'm not just the talking piece for all of you. If anybody would like to come up, please don't hesitate, and please do so if you would like. Well, you can choose your time too. The electorate has spoken. We are delivering the petitions with over 1,100 signatures to the town clerk in favor of renaming Granite Knolls. In memory of Supervisor Tom Deanna. Tom never wavered from his values. He was an example of what all politicians should do: serve the people and put the community first. He was truly Yorktown's favorite son. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Joanne. Oh, I did forget one other suggestion that came from two people, which was the Shrub Oak Library, Shrub Oak Post Office, and going to try to get the federal government to rename that. So we've had individual discussion. Does anyone want to add anything? Well, actually, if you don't mind, I'd like to just add something. So in the idea of town hall, which is a great recommendation, there is very little that Tom liked to do in town hall. Tom was listening for a nixle or some type of radio alert or a text message to say, "Hey, there's a water main break. Oh, I'm out." I would imagine, Donna, he woke you up many nights running out to the water main breaks as well, and getting out there and wanting to be there. So town hall was probably his least favorite part of this job. And I would say probably driving here to Underhill Street. We know he loved Shrub Oak. He was the Okie from Shrub Okie. And he was very proud of that. And, I think it's very fitting personally that we stay within that. I will also say that Tom would probably not be in favor of multiple things, because we've had that discussion in the past where it's like, you know what, if you want to recognize someone, that's great, but be careful about recognizing too much. He was quite adamant about that, because we had seen some things that were very near and dear to people, and a lot of different suggestions come about it, and sometimes it's hard to say no. But I personally say that staying within Shrub Oak, staying with Tom, and then I personally think they're two great things to do in Shrub Oak. So
I gotta be honest. I mean, all I remember is when we had the tree lighting in Shrub Oak, when Tom with the big goofy hat on, and he was so proud of the tree. I mean, that for me, that's where he lived. That stretch from the memorial to the library, and it's overwhelming that the park, or that people want the park renamed. So I don't think it's too much to do both.
okay.
I just don't. But I really, my most favorite part would be they're both wonderful. My most favorite part would be that strip, because that's how I remember him. But I don't think it's too much to do both.
No.
And
I had the
That's my opinion.
I had the advantage of being around as Granite Knolls was being built, so that was also a
Well, yeah,
great
so-
thing. Anytime Tom got to push around dirt, look at pipes, he was a happy man. He was, that was him. He was very thrilled, and I think that PJ used to hide the keys so he didn't get in the machines as well, because I know that he was, he loved getting into any of the big machines and running them around. Lou?
I didn't have the privilege of working with him as much as you guys did. I would have liked the whole park place, because the one thing that Tom and I had in common was infrastructure. I might have been the girl on the board, but I knew how to lay some concrete, and that was always really great. But I'm going to go ahead and just support what this board would like to do, because I see him in every guiding eye dog. I see him in every tragic police event that I hear about, because unfortunately he told me some scary stories about when he was hit by a car and
Twice in the same
still
day.
came out to arrest the guy. So I can't get that image out of my head. So I see Tom in a whole bunch of different places, and I hope to continue seeing him as I walk through this town, because he deserved that.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, so I think Tommy, to keep it, to honor him and to recognize him, I would be all for the Granite Knolls. I think his blood, sweat, and tears were up there. He absolutely, like you said, he liked pushing the dirt around, being part of it. He just liked he saw it from beginning to end. And Joanne, I just want to kudos to you guys to spearheading the petitions. You guys did a phenomenal job, So and also that stretch, whatever you come up with, one or two things would be great. I would lean more towards Granite Knolls, but that section of street, I'm new on the block, and when I was there for the Christmas lightings and stuff, and he absolutely loved that little corner. And we just did the 9/11 memorial there. He did a lot in that little section. A lot. His name screams out as you go by it.
Yeah, and the spot behind Lakeland School.
Yeah, the Vietnam
It's just so much.
Memorial he was involved with that was his
You love that
class.
too? Yeah.
Yeah.
And he loved that it was hidden and bringing us there and exposing it so that the world could see it. And I think that's the thing. It's It's not so much, there's always something with something and then something else, and I really like that word transparency, but I will say that when Tom wanted to get it done, he committed to it and got it done, so you can see him in multiple places. And I do think that the fact that it came alive, that there were so many amazing ideas to be named after him, has to do with how spread out he was throughout the town. I mean, at one point, we even talked about collecting bricks and connecting the Heights all the way over to Straboke, and doing something where there was almost like a scavenger hunt through town, because Yorktown is so big and we miss on so many spots. So I hope to see all of those legacies live on, regardless of where his name is.
I say we do both.
Dave, any comments?
Sorry, Dave.
That's okay, Serge. So, yes, when I think of Tom, I do think of I had gone out and looked at it from Pine Court to New Road. Okay, particularly with respect to the Christmas tree, Mrs. Claus out there. That first year, I think she was a reindeer, if I remember correctly. I think that, and with his family all being memorialized, I think that certainly that has to take place, and whatever you decide, I fully support with respect to Granite Knolls. But I think to do one without doing the other would be inappropriate. But that's it.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks.
If we could ask the members of Parks and Rec, if whoever would like to come up, or commission up. Matt is your designated spokesman? He's the chairman. Okay.
Good evening, all. There's a beautiful sentiment for Tom. Naming the park is definitely something that the Parks and Recreation Commission is all for, naming it after Tom. We do prefer, we looked at a bunch of our signs, and we have Brian J. Slavin Aquatic Facility. We have John Downing Park. These are all names that don't have a title to it. John Downing was a supervisor. Brian J. Slavin was the superintendent of parks. So I'm not sure if we should put supervisor on it, but we're all for it, and we're gun ho. Let's get it done. Let's get her done.
Get her done. Right.
Yeah.
In the words of Tom.
Yep.
So you guys have a meeting on Thursday, I
We
believe?
do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So have that discussion
Yep.
about the park. I think the most important thing is Tom Diana
Yep.
on it, because
The thought is that you kind of want people to say the name, like you say Downing Park.
Right.
So if you put too much in it, maybe they're not going to say the name. So maybe less is more. I'm not really sure. I'll have a conversation with the commission, with Donna.
And look, from an appropriate point of view, and I've said it before, Tom was, he was a supervisor for a short time. His impact came as Tom.
Right.
His impact in our town, and it was him and his life and his growing up here and his, his gregarious personality, his laughter. That's really the important thing. So,
Great.
I would appreciate, though, if you did speak with Donna just
Yes,
to see
absolutely.
on her feelings. But
Absolutely.
Oh, I say we do both, and it's a no-brainer for me. And I think we got the support here, and we got the support from Parks, and I don't think it's too much.
I second that. I think both really recognize his strength and what he gave back to Yorktown and Straboke, and
okay,
So.
look.
I've said everything.
Great. All right. So.
How's it work?
Well, I think what we need to do is, for the first part, pass on a recommendation to the Parks and Rec Commission to take up the renaming of Granite Knolls at their next meeting on Thursday. Can I have a motion on that?
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then, I know we were playing around with a draft resolution. Do we have that for the road? Yeah.
Dave would know how to do that.
Dave, do you have?
I didn't bring it.
It's the highway
Bring it?
Thought that would be presumptuous.
All right.
Not that I've ever been presumptuous.
Not you.
No. Not even with Pete the Cat.
Not even with Pete the Cat. I can
We were actually,
send it out tomorrow.
just so you know, we actually had a draft resolution that we were looking at if this had moved through, because we would like to get everything going, get the signs ordered. We want to make sure by the time we have our parades down there and the summer where people walking around that
Sports
they're
open
out there, sports.
What are we gonna, it's Tom Diana Way? Is that what do you,
Yeah, I think,
that's cool.
yeah,
I think that's cool.
yep. You find it?
When we named the road after Jake, we named it
Email it to me.
Jake Arcara Memorial Highway, but there was a double entendre in there with respect to highway and highway, because he worked for us.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think we could check.
Whatever you guys think, I'll take care
Well,
of the signs.
I think we defer to Donna.
Yep.
Whereas the town board of the town of Yorktown requests that Highway Superintendent Dave Paganelli consider naming a portion of East Main Street in the town of Yorktown as the Supervisor Tom Diana Memorial Highway. Do we, does it
Well,
have to be
It can
named
be
as a-
whatever you would like it to be.
This is draft.
Yeah, well,
This was
but
just
I'd
something
like to
to-
move it, I'd like to try to move it forward tonight.
Do you
if
want
we-
Why don't we pass the resolution the way it is, and then
We can
we'll
determine a change.
You
na-
guys
name-
can let me know how you want the
Okay.
verbiage to read on the sign.
And we could talk to Don about that offline.
That's important.
Whereas Superintendent Dave Paganelli has selected a portion of East Main Street between Pine Court and New Road in the town of Yorktown, County of Westchester, to be designated and known as Supervisor Tom Memorial Highway. Now therefore be it resolved that the Highway Superintendent and the Town Board in the town of Yorktown hereby names a portion of East Main Street between Pine Court and New Road, the Supervisor Tom Diana Memorial Highway. And then I would add that
Do you want to,
a name change made.
do you want to edit that and say name to be determined, and then whatever
Right.
Donna decides she likes, then we can.
Right, name change to be determined. I think we could. So can I have a motion on that?
Motion.
Second.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. I see a couple of people heading towards the exit, and I just want to say anyone who came for this, thank you very much. It is truly, truly beautiful to see the tribute. I think Joanne put it quite right before, and it's nonpartisan. It's about the life of a man who meant a lot to the town, a favorite son, so to speak, and I think that it's really, really great to see that support. It is what Yorktown is about. And I'm really, really proud to call Yorktown my home, and thank you all for that.
Riccardo. Camilla. Pat.
What do you want to call it, Mrs. Reindeer? I know, my God. As a matter of fact, your papa
Thank you.
You were. I was about, I think, somewhere around here. I was getting ready to take off. Huh? She wants a supervisor. Okay. Let her talk to her. How are you, Kathy? Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to go back live. We can? Tom, are we on? All righty. Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to move to personnel after that. Once again, though, thank you for all who showed for that and all the work. I was just, yes, thank you, Howard. Thank you. You know, it's funny. Diana got. She when it comes to getting petitions signed, she resurrected the 1927 Yankees because they hit it out of the park. They really did. So I know a couple of baseball fans in the audience here that know the.
Not talking about the rage.
So we're going to go into personnel. We're going to accept the retirement letter received from Mike Samuels for the Refuse and Recycling Department. And although I don't think Mike has resigned from the the volunteer fire department, so we'll still see him there. Accept the retirement letter received from Margaret Agrosia, Senior Library Clerk from the John C. Hart Memorial Library. Appoint Colin Russell to the position of Librarian 1 in the John C. Hart Memorial Library. Is Colin? He is. Colin, why don't you give us a minute, and then after we pass these, I'll have you come up. Approve Margaret Bagley, Office Assistant in the Legal Department, permanent status effective March 5th, 2024. Authorize Michael Hecker from the Water Department to be paid the rate set forth in the CBA Yorktown CSEA Salary Schedule A, Group 14, Step 4, which is $83,964 annually. Appoint Thomas Dalton to the position of Motor Equipment Operator in the Highway Department. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Colin, why don't you come up and tell us a little bit about yourself? So, but before you go, I will. Yep,
Come
right
on up.
right up there. So, I will say that there is. I said look forward for some announcements coming up. There's some great work going on in the library. They've gotten some grants that they've been working on. We have the community room almost ready to open. A lot of new and exciting things. And one of the things that we've been trying to do for a while is find a teen librarian. And I think your experience talks. So why don't we give you the mic, Colin?
Sure. Yeah, I am leaving a charter high school in the South Bronx that I've worked at for 8.5 years. I built their library program from the ground up that didn't exist when I arrived, and I'm incredibly proud of that and really excited to take that experience to John C. Hart and build a program there.
Great. And any visions already, or?
I mean, a lot of different ideas, obviously incorporating various social media in terms of like engaging teens in coming to the library and utilizing its services, both books as well as other like services that the library provides. Yeah.
So out of curiosity, when you were at the charter school, was there a lot of emphasis on the physical books, or was it more in that age group, was it more the electronic books and different ways of going online?
It's a little bit different in a school. Obviously, there are physical books there. I also was sort of in charge of the teaching research to students, like a specialization in like research and pushing into classrooms and teaching students how to find information online, in print, through various means.
Fantastic. Well, go on,
I got
sir.
a quick question. So what made you decide to want to be a librarian? I mean, I think that's very curious to me. It's great.
Yeah.
I'm just,
I started there as a theater teacher, which doesn't make any sense. But I
you look like you should be in theater. Go ahead.
when I arrived in 2015, the library was dilapidated, water damaged, cockroaches, you name it. And
It's called the Bronx, right?
yeah. And no one was taking care of it, and I grew up going to the library. My parents, I grew up in the Midwest. My parents were working class, not a lot of money, and the library was a favorite place of ours. So I hated to see a library that was not being used and that was defunct, and I sort of took it on as a side project, and then I got the opportunity to get my master's through a Teacher to Librarian program that the Department of Ed is offering in the city.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well,
So
Pretty impressive.
Thank you. Thank you.
All
I
right.
appreciate that.
Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're gonna have fun working with Yvonne.
Yeah. Hey, Colin.
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 Back over here.
Come on up. That's okay. Welcome aboard.
On top of all my volunteering, I read a book a week, so I like to get lost in books too. Yvonne knows, I set up for all of them.
All right.
Great. That is.
Ivana has some good stuff in the hopper.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
This
Yep.
is gonna be great help.
And there's more to come. I know that. So let's let us move on though, and we will open courtesy of the floor. Please remember, you do not have to wait to bring a comment to the town board or any of our town departments. You go on our website, find our emails, our phone numbers, everything that you would need for that, and we will we'll start with our first person.
Step on up.
Hello, Paul Moskowitz, Yorktown resident. I was present and I spoke at the public hearing on the suggestion that we landmark the Underhill mansion. I also listened to Councilman Lachterman's explanation of why the town board didn't want to landmark the site. However, there was one thing that confused me. It was said that not one person at the public hearing had gone into the finances involved with the landmarking process. And I thought that that was all I talked about. So let me repeat some of what I said. When you take a property that's worth $1 million, but is zoned for 13 or 14 houses, and then you allow it to be zoned for 147 houses, 147 living units. Not only have you increased the density by a factor of 10, but you've probably increased the value of that property by a factor of 10. So a $1 million property then becomes a $10 million property. That has to be figured in. The town board has given the developers a gift of $10 million. I think with that much money at stake, it would not be too much of a burden for the developers to maintain that mansion as a landmark. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Good evening, Jay Kopstein.
Hi, Jay.
We spoke about Tom before. One of the things we didn't mention, should have been mentioned, is that Tom was the big proponent in anti-drug activities. Granite Knolls helps keep kids out of trouble. It should be named for Tom. That was one of the things that was near and dear to his heart. In another matter, I thank the town for the stop work order on that fiasco on Route 202. They're clear cutting. I don't know who owns the property. They've taken down at least 30 or more trees. They clear cutted it. No permit. The sign that's up there is ugly. I don't know if it's a requirement. I don't know if they have a permit for it. And I wish we could figure out a way to take it down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Good evening, Town Board. Larry Killian. Nice to see you again. As you might have noticed, we have an election for supervisor on April 16th. I don't want to disappoint you, so I'm here to talk about your 485B policy. I want to remind you to look at all of the vacant stores in town. And we need to stop giving tax breaks to build unneeded commercial space. There's no need for that. I know from speaking to you that you firmly believe in the wisdom of your current policy, but belief is not enough. the law requires the policy to be reviewed periodically, and we've had 6 years of the policy with no review. What is particularly bad about this policy, from my point of view, it gives tax breaks to businesses who would build new space anyway. And Sergio's going to say, Larry, you can't say that. But I think that if you do the analysis of what happened before the policy was adopted, if you look at other towns who don't have that tax break policy, and you look at the cost effectiveness of the businesses involved, there's more than enough information to make that determination. Let's take the Caremount building on 118, where they collected their doctors and services into one new big building. There was never an option to move the Yorktown doctors out of town. An incentive was not needed. So, before our tax policy was in effect, the same thing was done up in Hill Boulevard by collecting the doctors. No tax break was needed. In Brewster, neither Brewster nor Southeast has that tax break policy. They did it because it was cost efficient. To date, we taxpayers have paid $330,000 that the owners of the property should have paid. Optum is doing that because it's cost efficient. So how are they doing? They made $15.9 billion, not million, billion dollars last year in profits. That's why our taxes for insurance are going up. Taxpayers are not benefiting from this policy. It's developers. It really needs to be changed now. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you, Larry.
Hello, all. Sheila Schreier.
Hi, Sheila.
I should have gotten together with Larry because I'm also going to talk about the 485B tax incentive law, which I hear a lot of people calling the developer giveaway. Many of us in town are concerned with this law, which seems to grant tax abatements willy-nilly. I am asking the board to modify this law and consider tax relief on a case-by-case basis. Any budget shortfall because of tax relief to developers must be made up by the taxpayers, both in town and school budgets. For instance, a huge corporation like Lowe's, which indicated that it was opening a store here anyway, was granted relief under 285B to the tune of a total of $619,000, including $500,000 to the schools. Underhill Farms will get a projected $650,000 plus. Caremount Optum received over $250,000. It's time for the board to evaluate if we even need the added commercial space, let alone giving them lower taxes, since we have so many empty storefronts all over town. Even when a company like Uncle Giuseppe's, which did a fantastic job renovating the long vacant food emporium eyesore, moves, it leaves an empty storefront behind. Ditto our beloved Yorktown Pharmacy, which seems to have occupied the previous space forever. What is moving in there? The rumor is that TJ Maxx will be taking over part of the empty Kmart, although I have to say that the original plan for the Kmart, which was unable to be built, I like that a lot more than what Underhill is going to do. It looked beautiful with a whole plaza in front and everything. So what is coming in for the rest of the Kmart space? Because I believe that TJ Maxx is not taking the entire space. what will be taking over the TJ Maxx space when they move? Is TJ Maxx getting a tax incentive to move? Yorktown Grill closed in the fall. What's coming in there? I could go on naming empty spaces. We do not need new commercial construction that includes a tax reduction. Reevaluate 485B as it presently stands.
Sheila, your time's up.
Okay, I just wanted to say we need more mom and pop stores here.
Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you.
Mary Jane Killian. Different topic. Last week, I was at a Pace University conference at which we were constantly being reminded that 2023 was the hottest year on record, and ocean temperatures were the warmest ever. And when I got home and turned on the news, Texas was on fire. But a while ago, I had decided that instead of feeling scared or hopeless about these constant warnings, I was going to do whatever I could do as an individual, but more importantly, reach out to my community to help them reduce their reliance on fossil fuels by making the necessary transition to clean energy. In fact, a key message at this conference was about engaging with our communities. And I was reminded of that fact, of the fact that some of our neighboring communities, like Croton and Ossining, are years ahead of Yorktown in terms of transitioning to clean energy. In Croton, they've leased a small part of their town parking lot for solar panels, charging stations, which will generate $400,000 a year in revenue for the town. They've also put solar panels on their roofs of their municipal buildings. Imagine if Yorktown covered the parking lot near Yorktown's town hall with solar panels and added EV charging stations, generating hundreds of thousands in revenue and free charging for town vehicles. It's a location within walking distance of many of the residences and stores, and people walking on the trail could charge their cars, and people driving into town could charge their cars while shopping in town. Another nearby town, Ossining, has been voted as having the best of Westchester Sustainability Committee for its accomplishments. And Westchester County just added an electric Mustang patrol car to its growing fleet of electronic vehicles. So why am I speaking at the board meeting tonight? Because I believe that towns do have a responsibility to be the leaders in this effort. There are organizations that can offer us help and support in this endeavor. When a town takes the initiative in transitioning to clean energy, it can inspire its residents to do the same, and it can be an example to other towns that such a transition is not only possible, but necessary, and that it doesn't have to increase expenditures. In fact, it can save money almost immediately. So in conclusion, I would once again urge the town board to make a plan to transition to clean energy, to have a vision for the future, embrace a leadership role in this effort. This January, Westchester Magazine lists Yorktown as one of the least green towns in our county. Instead, we could be one of the most, an example for other towns, a place where residents could be proud of their town's vision and commitment to a sustainable future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Jane.
Good evening, everyone. Kevin Burns. I'm about a 23-year resident in Yorktown. I just want to say I really appreciate what you're doing for Tom Diana. I think it's a great thing. I've worked with him a lot over the last decade. I know everybody up here knows that I'm the chairman of the Yorktown Republicans, but that's not what I'm here to speak about. I've dealt with Tom a lot. Many times through the Boy Scouts of America. I was the Scoutmaster of Troop 174. He helped so many Eagle Scout projects. It was too many to count. My sons included, Dave too. When I was on I still am on CERT, the town CERT, a Facebook memory just popped up from 10 years ago of a big storm that we had in Yorktown, and CERT was activated, and Tom and I just jumped in a car and had to go up to Putnam to get some dry ice to distribute. So it was really nice seeing that. But I'm also here to speak about a group that you mentioned earlier, and I'm wearing the jacket, United for the Troops. As you know, that was also near and dear to Tom's heart. He was a big supporter of United for the Troops. We just packed our 30 2,000th box this past weekend that got sent over to the troops. Tom was there when we packed our 30,000th just last year, as were you, Ed.
Yep.
We're having our gala on Friday, April 5th at Villa Barone. Tickets are $100. It's a really nice night to get out, and every single penny that we earn in United for the Troops goes to pay for the boxes that we send over to the troops overseas. It costs about $15 a box to send overseas. Jimmy Ratchmid is our pretty much CEO. Nobody gets a profit from this. Nobody gets any kind of salary. So if you want to donate to United for the Troops, even if you can't be at the gala, you can go to unitedforthetroops.org and make a cash donation. If you can go to the gala, that'd be great. It's a really fun time. There's a $10,000 raffle that night, so please join us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jenny Sunshine, Yorktown resident.
Hi, Jenny.
Hello.
Hello, Jenny.
So, Yorktown, as we know, is 236 years old. We still have farms, a bucolic setting, pockets of forests, tall trees, rock walls, and some quiet streets at night. And 236 years is a long time to keep these lovely things intact for all of us. But it's like that because every town board and planning board before was discerning and careful about what developments were allowed within our town. And in fact, I know for a fact that Linda Cooper and Councilman Nick Bianco, who I liked very much, about 20 years ago when they were here and sitting in your seats where you are now, they're Republicans, but they were environmentalists. And they worked really hard, actually, to keep the town green, and allowed development, but also they said no to a lot of developments as well. Now, compare South Florida to Yorktown. And I say that because that's my hometown, and I spent my first 30 years in South Florida. And because South Florida, for all its intents and purposes, is a relatively new part of Florida, it only really began to be populated in about 1930. And so that's only 94 years ago. But how many strip malls do we have and walled developments are there? And tons of unchecked development that go from the Everglades to the ocean on both sides. And that means hot cement and parking lots and, landscape trees implanted within sidewalks, devoid of anything native or natural, and old vacant lots that become strip malls that later become defunct and blighted and sit empty. That's what I grew up with. But back to Yorktown, we clearly have standards, and we have had standards for many, many, many years. Because otherwise, if we didn't have standards, we would look just like South Florida. But we don't. It's beautiful here. But that clearly might be changing because that's what the Why campaign is all about. That's what you've wanted, and that's what the planning board wants, because everything is about development now, and it's all about saying yes to every single developer that comes along. But, okay, fine, I'm just one person who happens to care about open space and trees, and certainly we've lost hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of trees in the last 20 years, maybe even thousands. I know it's thousands. But I just hope that everyone understands, because I do understand people really love development as well, but we must understand what this means. This doesn't just mean less trees. It also means hotter summers. It means more paved surfaces. It means
Jenny,
more
your time's
people.
up.
Okay, and I just want to say our taxes aren't going down. They haven't. And I don't think you want to be, I think you want to maybe take a look at development and not be so apt to say yes all of the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you.
Good evening, James Mecca, Yorktown.
Jim, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing good.
Looking good.
Thank you. You too. It's the Italian news. On Monday, February 26th, we laid to rest World War II Army veteran Corporal Michael Diastis, a Yorktown resident. I want to thank the individuals and groups who were part of the final farewell. But first, I know if Tom Diana was here, he would have been right there for Michael every step of the way. When Tom was campaigning, he came over to our condo and he sat down on the kitchen table with me and my wife, Ann, and we were talking, and I mentioned Michael. I said, Michael will be 98 on January 7th this year. And he says, Jim and Ann, next year we will have a great birthday ceremony for Michael. And it was another 105-year-old World War II veteran that he wanted to do it. Tom was a great, great, great supporter of veterans. The individuals and groups I want to mention who were there for the final farewell for Mike were the 4th Smith Army Honor Guard, Chief Noble and his fantastic police officers for their large turnout and for their escort from the St. Patrick's Church to the cemetery. I want to thank the citizens of Yorktown, many of them who did not know Mike, but who showed up and helped fill St. Patrick's Church. Supervisor Ed Latterman and his wife, who got the word out on Facebook, and Councilman Murphy, who was there. I want to thank my combat group meeting from Yonkers, American Legion Post 8, and VFW Post 439 from New Rochelle, VFW Post 2285 from Eastchester. The American Legion and Sons of the American Legion from Post 1009, a large group of their members showed up at the church and cemetery. I do not know all their names. Some I know are Don and Sue King, Tom Brady, and Rocco Salerno. From Yorktown, Jefferson Village, I want to thank Eileen, Ida, and Jackie, volunteers who showed up. I want to thank my fellow veteran and good buddy, Frankie V., the one veteran from Jefferson Village, who came and paid his respects to Mike. And a special thanks to my wife, who has helped and supported me all these years that I've helped veterans. And finally, Paula from my brother Vinny, Kenny, and all the workers who helped Paula. No one does more to help veterans in need than my brother Vinny, from giving furniture and buying them food. For the last 6 months of Mike's life, Paula was with Mike every day. And after a while, Mike came to think of Paula as his daughter. Paula was responsible for getting Mike in rehab facility, finding a 24-hour aide for Mike, buying food for Mike, and making the arrangements for the church and the cemetery. As a Vietnam veteran, I'm proud to have Paula as my friend.
Jim, your time's up.
Hey, Jim, you did a great job, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
And Paula did a great job.
Dan, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Nice
Looking
to see
good.
you, Mr. Strauss. It's been a while. Nice to see you here. It's been a little while.
Good to see you. I just wanted to start with a couple of observations. Are you aware that many of the businesses in the town of Yorktown, the town of trees, 14 years, they're taking down all their trees on their properties? A gas station down by the trailhead just took down a whole, so you can see the building on Keir Street, everything. They're just demolishing the whole town. You pray for the first responders before every meeting, but are you aware that people park in fire lanes repeatedly every day, and businesses do business in fire lanes? And as far as I'm concerned, they jeopardize the lives of everyone, plus first responders. And it's in plain sight. And it's been going on for a year. In plain sight. Okay, so it seems now that the Underhill Farm, but not the hotel, the boutique hotel hasn't come up. I have a couple of notes here. Overlay District. It's been 5 years, maybe more, before this whole thing started. In fact, I believe it was when the developer wanted to put apartments in Jefferson Valley, and you guys were all in on it, or you weren't on the board then. That was 5-6 years ago. Okay. Those that are here were all in on it. But then when there was a voting block at Jefferson Village that didn't want it, things changed. That was what I saw, but I was so stupid even after seeing for 5 years of meetings that that's what was going on until someone told me, oh. But from that point on, Underhill Farm and the boutique hotel have become the major focus of the whole of Yorktown. Everything that's been done here, everything. It's like a movie for 5 years. And I'm glad that people are still talking about it, even though I believe it's a done deal. But it was a done deal 5 years ago, because someone told me that, and I didn't believe it, but now I believe it. So for me, 3 weeks ago, as far as I know, you had the ability to landmark a building, but you chose not to, unequivocally. That's I read the paper, unequivocally. But then 2 weeks later, you changed your tune. No? Oh, I'm wrong.
We'll address it.
Okay, fine. I thought you changed your tune and you put through a resolution which doesn't address landmarking it. So after all this time, you couldn't landmark that building. But for me, you should buy the property. Someone has said here, how much is the property worth? You've got about $25 million available right now. If you want to do something for the town, you buy the property, landmark it, and develop it for the people of Yorktown, not for the developer.
Dan, your time's up.
148 units of asphalt jungle. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Hi, Marcia Stone, longtime Shrub Oak resident. I'm glad that the Underhill property is still being talked about. Last time I spoke here, I was speaking about the, saving and landmarking the house. I'm deeply disappointed in the decision of the board not to landmark the house. One of the things I also mentioned was about the commercial nature that the house will be turned into, in addition to the other commercial spaces that will be built in that development, commercial spaces that we don't need. And I began to think about the Underhill getting this huge tax breaks from this town board. So in the 21st century here in Yorktown, we should not be giving tax breaks to developers to build new retail space. We don't need more retail space. We have so much vacant space here. It's eroding our commercial tax base, and that contributes even more to the plague of vacant stores. Residents complain that they have to pay for the tax breaks given to property owners. The standard answer from the town board is that you have to look at the bottom line. But those general statements about the bottom line overstate revenue and ignore lost revenue. For example, the town takes at face value, without critical review, the developer estimates of the number of school children a project will generate, like Underhill. In calculating the number of school children projected for Underhill Farms, there was no consideration of how many new children would enroll in the school if senior citizens from Yorktown sold their 3 or 4 bedroom houses and moved to Underhill Farms, and then the families with kids would move into those houses and increase the population in the schools. That was not a part of the projection at all. Not accounting for those children leads to a major overestimate of increased tax revenue, because there will be more children coming in. Yorktown schools see there are more children coming in. They just passed a bond issue to build more classrooms because they foresee it. There's a second category of tax loss that is ignored and should be figured into the bottom line. The value of retail and commercial space has declined sharply. The best example of this is Uncle Giuseppe's move to the former location of the Food Emporium. A few years after the close of the Food Emporium, the landlord got a tax break of approximately $40,000 a year, which has continued to this day. However, with the reopening of the expanded Uncle Giuseppe store, that tax break was not rescinded, nor were the taxes raised. There's a massive oversupply of retail and commercial space, reducing the value of existing commercial property. Adding unneeded space creates more vacant stores, like Uncle Giuseppe's move, Panera, Mrs. Green's, and further erodes our tax base. Another example of this trend includes a strip mall west of the Lumberyard on East Main Street in Shrub Oak, which received more than a 50% reduction in their taxes last year. Yet another example is that the owners of what used to be the Sears building in the mall got another tax reduction. This constant erosion of our tax base should be of major concern and must be factored into our calculations.
Marcia, your time is up.
The list of tax reductions goes on and will continue to grow at a greater rate unless we stop giving these tax breaks for new commercial space.
Thank you, Marcia.
Hello, everyone. Anthony Pichette. I feel like I'm getting closer and closer to you with this podium. So I just wanted to, I came to speak today to talk about a request for us I know as Deputy Supervisor has said many times, it becomes political silly season, I think is what they say. And I understand that there's some rhetoric that is started and spoken to. I was watching on TV the last meeting and noticed that when Assemblyman was here, there was a conversation about migrants. And I just, I wanted to speak to that a little bit if I could. I wanted to read, God, if I can read this, from the Columbia Journal Review, just a little portion of that. Many of the people are not migrants, but asylum seekers or refugees, people escaping war, persecution, or local and lethal violence, people who cannot go home. Obviously, the word migrant has become popular because it is shorter and easier to use than the clumsy phrase asylum seeker, and perhaps seems more neutral than the word refugee. But migrant is not neutral. A migrant is someone who is traveling to find better job opportunities and make money, while asylum seekers and refugees are people who are fleeing for their lives. Even more significantly, asylum seekers and refugees are entitled to legal procedures and protections that migrants are not. In one example, the government of Greece told the public that the majority of migrants in Greece only come to make money and so are not entitled to refugee protections. This declaration, which willfully ignored the reality that more than 75% of asylum seekers in Greece had in fact fled war or violence, not only served to whip up local resentment against refugees, but allow the government to quickly strip away their rights. I'm going to move on from that and just a couple things to talk about. I know there were a couple statements and clarification I just wanted to respond to. It was mentioned that residents in Harlem, we're talking about the migrants, are losing their housing that is being built because they're now used as migrant shelters. Actually, the housing there was unoccupied, and the New York City mayor let people in. And there was said there were cuts to police, fire, and first responders in the city, which actually isn't true because they changed that. But just a couple things here. Native-born Americans criticized these immigrants, this is before, for their poverty and manners, their supposed laziness and lack of discipline, their public drinking style, their Catholic religion, and their capability of criminality and collective violence. And this was, of course, talked about the Irish when they came over. And I have examples also about talking about Italians. One cartoon claimed that if immigration was properly restricted, you would never be troubled with anarchism, socialism, and such kindred evils. So,
Anthony, your time's up.
thank you. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thanks, Ant.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, Susan.
Good evening, Susan Siegel. Okay. Unlike some of the other comments, it's a long line of courtesy tonight. Okay. I have questions, and I'd appreciate an update from the town board on two issues: the Halleck's Mills Sewer Extension District and the Town Hall phone system.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Oh, I hear the groans. All right. Regarding the sewer extension program, last year after the project cost escalated because the comptroller rejected the cost estimates, which were outdated because of so many town delays in getting the project moving forward. Okay. The town decided to go for a grant to help defray the cost because it was the new estimates were so high, and in August you applied for a grant. Well, in December, the governor's office announced the award winners. Sorry to say, Yorktown was not on the list. Okay, I believe that's the second time the town has applied for a grant for that sewer project and has been denied both times. So my question for the board tonight is, what do you plan to do next? Absent any additional outside sources of funding, and I think you've probably explored all the possibilities, what are you going to do? Are you going to go back to the 315 homes with whatever the projected cost is and ask them, are they willing to pay whatever the cost is? Or are you basically going to say, given what the cost estimate's going to be for the homeowners, is the project dead? These homeowners have been waiting for far too many years. They need some closure. You either are going forward with what the cost is, or you're not. They have to know whether they should put money in to repair their septic systems or not. But this just can't hang on and on and on. It's been too many years of town board delays. The second question, the phone system, which got groans. And that's because I'm probably not the only one who tried to call town hall and just the phone kept ringing, ringing, ringing. This is not a new issue. You know that I've been at board meetings for many, many years. I can remember a presentation from some company on a new phone system. Nothing was done. It's in the town board's capital budget. It went back to 2018 to replace the phone system. Nothing has been done. I don't know what the problem is. I have no idea what the solution is. But why, with $27 million in general fund balance, why can't we spend the money to deal with the phone system and get something new? And next week, I hope you'll have an update on my pet project, fluoride.
Yeah.
Okay, because I know the company was supposed to come, and then the Board of Health, we have failed the test twice. Hopefully, we'll pass it this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Sarah Wilson, Yorktown Heights resident. I heard Mary Jane speaking about environmental actions, and of course, you know, environmental matters are a topic near and dear to my heart. As a member of Yorktown 100, I was really happy when the town of Yorktown opened up the food scraps drop-off site at Downing Park by the tennis courts, and I am there every week bringing my food scraps. So I'm really happy that we have that. But unfortunately, it needs maintenance. And I have, you know, contacted Phil Marino a couple of times. Last time it was, oops, I'm sorry, I've been so busy with other things, I don't get over there very often. And he did swap out two of the most disgusting pails that had really deteriorated and put in two new ones. But they still, I was there, you know, this afternoon, dropping off, and some of the pails were so full that you couldn't even close the lids, and then that's going to create a nuisance and attract animals, and you're going to have issues, and then people are going to say this is a bad thing, but it's just because it's not being maintained. When we first rolled it out, you know, the pails were clean, they had liners, they were changed every week, you know, it was nice. Sometimes it's just really bad, and I talked to residents, and they're excited to hear, you know, they don't know we have this capability, but I'm embarrassed to send them because, you know, it just looks so bad. So anyway, I will continue to correspond with Mr. Marino, but I just wanted to make you, as the members of the board, aware of the situation. It's a wonderful program. I'm so happy we have it, but I just feel like we could do a much better job. And then just briefly, thank you for reporting, Councilman Murphy, on the schools. Just a reminder, you often say the district, and we do have two districts. I'm a member of the Lakeland School District. So hopefully you'll be reporting on things that are going on in Lakeland as well.
Sorry about that.
And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Good evening. Sorry. John Capobasso, 405 Courting. I'll be brief. It's a great thing that the school budget passed, and I don't know where you stand with all that, but
it's very good.
Amazing for the town. It's funny hearing from the crowd. I've been coming here for so long. Building. We need housing stock. We don't need housing stock. We need businesses. We don't need businesses. Just keep doing what you're doing. Do the best for the town. That's why you're elected officials. So I don't believe any of you are purposely doing anything. You know, I appreciate what you do, and, you know, for every town board that I've seen. Couple things. Yorktown's an amazing town. I think if you listen tonight, you might be questioning that. Yorktown is an amazing place to raise a family, to live in, and the safety and schools are second to none. And then the last question, I know that you guys have been working on a law for the recreation with housing and building. Can you just give us an update on where that is and where we stand on it? But thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks.
This is very far up tonight. Jan Mirchandani, Yorktown Heights. I just want to start by thanking Diana Quast for her proposal for the renaming of the park for Tom. And I want to thank Joanne and Brian Sillick for their work in the petition. Obviously, Tom and I had sort of a unique relationship last year, but it just seems really appropriate to be renaming the park after him, and I just want to acknowledge that. And then also, I just wanted to reference, I know Don had mentioned that he wasn't able to come to a couple of the board meetings, and they are available online. You can watch them, rewatch them, watch them double time, but they are available online on E360, so you can really watch them. Especially, it's worth noting for parents of young kids who may be dinner time, bedtime, older people who can't get to town board meetings, they are available online. So you can really watch them at your convenience, so you don't have to always come in person. And then really the subject that I wanted to talk about tonight was just really reinforcing for the for the 485B tax exemption law. You know, in the many boards that I've served on over the years, it's always worth asking the question. It seems like we are well overdue reevaluating this law and whether we are really getting the most out of it, whether it's doing what we want it to do, which is to incentivize businesses to come into town and get the right kind of development. There's no harm in looking at it and seeing what it's doing, what it's not doing, and really making sure that what we want to have happen in town is being done in a mindful way. So I just want to put that out there. Obviously, we've had other residents talk about that law and the need to reevaluate it, so I just want to echo that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else for courtesy of the floor? Can I have a motion to close courtesy of the floor?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So I'll address a few things, and I'll start with the 485B tax exemption. It's been called a couple of times, actually more than a couple of times, a tax abatement. And that we're giving away the taxes that would be collected. Larry and I have had the conversation many times. What the 485B does, I'll explain it again, is an incentive, and it does affect, yes, it does affect if it's a commercial spot that's built, and that also, one of the things that are commercial are apartments. So there's something there, and honestly, I'm a huge proponent of housing stock so things could be affordable. So the 485B tax exemption, say the Kmart building, and there is more than one thing going into Kmart. Right now there are 3 out of the 4 spots. There have been some people looking at the Yorktown Grill. We'll update the town on that later this month when hopefully the third place signs their agreement. But 2 have already signed. A third one is moments away from signing. I've been very much in touch with the landlord and the carekeepers of the property and trying to see what happens. But we'll take the Kmart building, which needed mold remediation, needed a facelift. For the landlords, it was not worth putting the money into as a whole. Now, there was also talk about a big discount to that mall. That was not a tax abatement, but rather certiorari, where the mall came in and said the property value is lower, and probably everyone has gotten a letter in the mail saying, hey, you could reduce your taxes by applying for this, and it's a tax certiorari to say you don't agree with the assessment on your property, and you'd like to have it lowered, and there are companies that go out and fight that. Well, that's what happened, and sometimes things do change, and the appraisals go down. Sometimes the appraisals go up. Mm-hmm. So certiorari is very different than a tax break or tax abatement. The 45B, All that does is, let's say Kmart's at $20 per square foot in tax, just on their tax end. If they dress it up, the value of that property is going to go up. So do they get a rebate on that $20 per square foot? No, they're still paying the $20 per square foot. Say now the property goes up to $30 a square foot. They're now given a break on half of that for 10 years in 5% increments. So the first year, we get $25 a square foot. The second year, it goes up, and we get another 5%. The next year it goes up, we get another 5%. Over 10 years, until they're at their base level. And this gives them the incentive to clean up the property and to be able to have people come in and rent. Now, as a business owner, and especially one of my businesses being a massage studio, if I ever thought of opening a second one, I would not open it in the Yorktown green the way it looks. Plain and simple. But because they dressed up Uncle Giuseppe's and they increased their traffic, and now they're dressing up Kmart and they're going to increase their traffic, I probably would consider to say, hey, if this is nice, maybe I'll come there. So I'm a business owner who would not come to Yorktown for that area, who might now decide to. And that's really the advantage of that. And it's to give the people that are building and developing. And by the way, it doesn't go to Kmart, doesn't go to Lowe's. It goes to the property owner, the people that are putting the money into the buildings, the people that are doing all of this work, the people that are building the apartment buildings. So, you know, I think that it's important to make that distinction. And I look at business one way. Larry looks at another way, I know. But be aware, though, also that we already had the town attorney pull the law, and we are looking at it and looking to see if New York State has made any changes as well, since this is a New York State law. And we are in the midst of looking at that, and we'll probably bring it to a work session to discuss in a little more detail with our planning department and the building department and other interested parties involved in that. I know we had some discussion with rec fee laws, and Luciana's been working on that. The food scrap area, Sarah, please copy me in your emails to Phil, and I'll follow up on it tomorrow morning. I already made a note for that. The overlay in Hill Farms, I was never in favor of the project, never came out in favor of the project. I thought it was way too dense for right where it was. I thought that being underneath the power lines is a problem, and I am the only one currently on the board that was here. So I believe that was when Lonnie was also, Lonnie, Alice, Vishnu, myself, and Tom. And it had nothing to do with voting block. It had everything to do with the presentation of what they were looking to do, how they were going to do it, where it was, and a lot of unknown things that were there. As for buying the Soundview property, just so you know, Matt Slater did think about that, to look at it. Maybe we could do town offices there. We could not afford, and I know everyone likes to throw around the fund balance. We cannot spend the fund balance to become developers, and we cannot afford even the upkeep of the building. It's very expensive to upkeep an old building like that, and if we wanted to move into the landmarking, I personally do not believe that as a governmental agency we could tell anyone in this room, landmark your house, landmark your property. I don't care how much the property is worth. It should not be an issue. I don't have that right to tell you that. I know it was questioned that, well, why do you believe in zoning? I said, because zoning is an existing law. And if you have a zone and if you're doing something, that's the way to do it. We also did the district overlay law to put things in the hands of the experts, which are the planning department. So it really stayed away from the town board per se, except for this last go-around with the landmarking. the turnaround wasn't a turnaround. We spoke a lot at the meeting about preserving the house, preserving the walls, preserving the gate, and preserving the pond. And that was all in the zoning, the zoning plan that was there, or the site plan that was approved. What we did as a board afterwards was negotiate through our attorneys to ask them to add extra protection. So when they sell the property, it's protected. And they did that in a covenant that gives the new purchaser that instruction that they have to come to a town board before changes are made. They can't just go in and say, well, you know what, we're going to tear down the house. There has to be a damn good reason to tear down something like that. But it's happened in our town. You know, someone mentioned that there's a willy-nilly look, and it's this current town board. Anyone who lived here through the 70s and the urban renewal knows that this was not the town board here. The urban renewal projects, which, you know, buildings like the Roma building, that has nothing to do with us. We're trying to, matter of fact, we got them to power wash it at least, but that's not us. We're looking with progress, preservation, green space. I think the planning board does a great job with that. All of the projects and the way our law is written and why we have an issue with the rec fees is because there's an emphasis on green space in these projects. And that's really, really important to the town. Also, there was a question on looking at the influx of children into the homes when you have seniors moving out into these senior apartments. But that is in the equation. Because what we're not realizing, a property like Underhill Farms will be paying $1 million in taxes, just about. Unfortunately, $800,000 or so is school tax. The schools are going to do very, very well with these projects. We need to figure out a way to put aside some money for ALS, Advanced Life Services, for paramedics, for police, for fire. And that's something we're working on through different grants. I don't think it's appropriate to get into the migrant situation today, Anthony, and I will say that, you know, there's some strict definitions of asylum, and you're usually not going thousands of miles. You're usually going to the next country for an asylum claim and going through there. So that's an important aspect, but we can have a conversation offline about migrants and, you know, and what that is. I have a lot of friends who had come into our country legally and illegally in the past, and working at that and trying to become citizens. And you know, it is admirable, and we all want a better life, and it's something that there's a lot of mixed emotion. There just needs to be some control, and I think that's the biggest issue. When we became a sanctuary county, Tom Diane and I put forward a bill or a resolution to send to Albany and to the county, asking them on one point, which was the communication of federal law enforcement like ICE and the prohibition that was put on with our police and courts talking about that. To me, that's part of the huge problem of what's happening with the immigration. It's a vetting process, and the fact that if someone is arrested in our courts that has an outstanding warrant, ICE is not allowed to be contacted, and that's a problem. I'm sorry. I'm a law and order guy. I love a safe community, and that is something that really needs to be addressed. And thankfully, I hear Mayor Adams is calling for changes, and I hope that a lot of politicians start looking further down the road, because this is going to be a problem if it's not addressed and not fixed, in my opinion. And it already is a problem, so it's not even my opinion. Susan, I know you didn't ask, but fluoride, they're set to come in on the 28th and finish the programming. So hopefully that is that is what's going to happen. The phone system, apparently the specs that were put together the last time around became outdated. We just had a meeting with a company that did a full assessment. They're doing the specs. We should be putting that out to bid shortly. There has been the problem with Verizon, and I know Lorraine is sitting over here, and she's on a first-name basis now with the people at Verizon. She's been calling so much and putting in so many work tickets. Thank you for that, Lorraine. They have been here probably about 6 times in the last 2 weeks at least. And because it's an intermittent problem, they're having a lot of trouble finding it. It could have something to do with the Verizon work over in front of the offices.
Yes.
And
most of the lines are old copper lines, and whatever bid you had from years ago, everything's moved to VoIP, voice over IP phones, and so we actually passed the authorization to have the analysis done on all the buildings.
Yep.
It's not like we're just changing one phone, like in your house. Say, I want to update the phones. Let me update this one phone. It's a little more complex than that. The other issue is that the wiring that we have now in these town buildings doesn't support data transfers. So because the new phone systems are going over Cat 5 or Category 6 cabling, the phone system that we have now is going over something called Category 3. And you can't run data networks and internet traffic over Category 3 lines. So it's going to require rewiring. And so it's a very complex issue, but we are looking into it. We're advancing with it. And like I said, we had the analysis. I don't know, did they come in?
Yeah, they came in and
see them.
They met with Janelle and Finance, Sandy.
So that's where we're at, and we're trying to figure out. I think the town has over, I think it was like over 200 phone numbers. So, and that's going to grow because when you have VoIP systems, each dial set is going to get its own DID, a direct inward dial. We're working on trying to move it forward. We know it's a problem. It's something that I ran on, with the infrastructure, the IT infrastructure that we have. We want to actually be able to do something very simple, transfer a call from this building to another building in town.
To John back
Can
there.
you imagine that, right? And so we can't do that. We had that capability years ago when Verizon was doing it for us, and they were charging us $1 million from what my research showed when I was digging into it.
You're geeking on us there.
So, yeah, I know. What are you going to do?
So the last thing from Susan, the sewer extension, it was not a town delay. It was actually the state controller, and we cannot move forward whether we want to or not right now without getting more money because the state controller said it's too much, and they won't approve it. They have final approval. Even if every resident said no, I don't mind paying, they say no. That's their right. And what we have done is, yes, we failed on 2 grants. So we've now moved to a federal grant, and actually today during our closed session, we came in early today, and we had grant writers that we were looking at because our grant writer that we had was unfortunately putting in some paperwork that was missing things, and we were getting turned down on grants. So we are moving forward towards another grant writer. We should have a decision shortly, probably bring them in for a presentation. Whether it's live or Zoom, and start getting more grants pushed out there. From the energy infrastructure and all of that, I will thank Sarah and Swarnoff because we have been working very closely to try to get not only the identification of things. I've been saying we need to solarize our buildings since 2014, I think. That's when we put the solar on our house. So 10 years. But it's been cost prohibitive. We haven't been able to get the grants. Sarah Swarnov and the Climate Smart Community Task Force are looking into that, are looking into EV chargers, and I don't know. I think we did look into the commuter lot, and we got turned down on it by the company that was going to do it. So we'll hopefully be able to revisit that with some other people. But I agree that, the renewables need to be looked at, and we need the right renewables, especially. Solar works. I know, I have it at home. So, my bills, have been $16 on line fees, and that's it. And I rent my panels, but it's still a heck of a lot cheaper than the electric bills, especially what I hear on the other side of town right now with Con Edison. So we definitely are looking at. So let's see. So the I guess the MS4 project and the sign. When I heard about it, I went over. Could tell it was wetlands right away, and the tree cutting, and asked them for their permits. They didn't have it, so I had them stop, and then John Landy came over and gave them an official stop work order. They were in. They're going through. They're finishing off the process. It was unfortunate that it was missed, but on their maps, it's actually not considered a wetland for the Army Corps of Engineer because of the size, and because Yorktown has a stricter, more stringent wetland regulation than the Army Corps of Engineers. So we're going to be passing that today to put it out. Hopefully we'll pass that, and then we'll be able to get them in, do the public hearing, and get their permits going so that job could get finished. And the sign is a sign. I did ask, I do want to make sure that there's if there's a permit needed, it's in place, but we will see on that. And we will, I have already been talking to the code enforcer about the fire lane parking, and I know we did add another traffic officer. So we have a traffic meeting coming up on Thursday, so that is a part of the meeting, and we'll talk about that. Did you guys have anything else that didn't get covered?
No, I think you covered it all.
I think you got everything, Ed, honestly.
Just about. All right.
I have this, I have a little bit of a charge around all the development that I just want to address. So I ran on common sense, right? So if your child decides to take a storefront and comes to me for Q&A, I'm going to ask them to get 3 months free rent so that they can invest in someone else's business to make their coffee shop or mom and pop shop or their store fantastic. I'm also going to tell you that I was not here when this whole Soundview came on, but that property, based on Lynn Briggs and everyone's comments, has held value in this town for many, 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 many years. And I'm curious why it wasn't landmarked back then, so that when someone bought it before a school or someone else, that they would automatically need the landmark, as opposed to us waiting for the final hour to implode and say, you know what, you should spend X hundreds of dollars in landmarking your building because now we've decided on that. I would never do that to someone's home. If I bought my home and you believed it needed to be landmarked, I wouldn't want the local government to knock on my door and tell me I have to now have lot line windows and landmark door frames from the 15th century because at one point Tom lived there. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. So that's one. So for the 485B, I moved here 6 years ago, and I've only now seen the removal of dead ash trees that have been there. I've not seen the volunteership that I would love to see of people planting native plants or plants that absorb tons of water when they have streams in their backyard that just flood. There are beautiful trees that can drink up so much water, but yet time and time again, I get told to myself, and maybe it's on behalf of all of us, that we're not considering it and we're playing this yes day with the developers. No, that's not the case. Because if you go down to Mount Pleasant where my parents live, they have vacant storefronts. And yes, do I believe our landlords should maintain a sort of respect to the landscaping of their properties, whether they are vacant or not? Absolutely. And I would love to argue that, just like I believe that our rec fees should be always rec fees, and there shouldn't be a game if I want land or not. However, things don't just change or happen in a day. The building that just came up here near Caramount was passed 6 years ago. When someone came up to me and said, "How dare you pass this? I can't see on the corner." I was like, I didn't pass it. It happened 6 years ago. So a lot of the stuff that we're doing needs what I think is a pause. It needs maintenance control. We need to not only create new infrastructure and development, we also need to maintain. We need to use words, like Anthony said, properly. Vet all of it. Because I don't believe that all of my knowledge is enough. I think the knowledge of everyone in the community is enough. And as far as what I was saying to you, Dan, was yes, it was a hard no, especially for me. I can only speak for myself with the landmarking. I come from New York City real estate. Landmarking wasn't always my friend. However, I understood how much this building meant, and I also understood how much the building stood. But I took a walking them. And the fact that they destroyed so many beautiful structures inside to convert it over and over again, and how that wasn't considered, just blew my mind. So I guess I just want to say, as far as the 485B, I think Ed's was much cleaner, but the way that I believe it is, if I was to buy or rent a store, whether it's mom or pop or it's Kohl's, and I invest in your property and I make it better,
And both of them are commercial.
I'm most likely going to have a concession on my lease. If anyone's done this, I mean, Jen, you work in marketing, there's concession even in time space on the internet. With that being said, it's because I am improving someone else's infrastructure. And I can also tell you, although I take no very, 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 very lightly, I constantly knock, that landlords don't always want to talk to me. They don't want me to tell them what to do. And I just want you guys to hear that part, because there's just so much charge in my body of what we actually do behind these scenes. And I get it's silly season and all that other stuff, but come on. Like, let's also get clear. There's also common sense. And yes, the clear cutting of trees, I get that. But I also was there when I was developing also in Connecticut and all of Westchester when ash trees were just dropping left and right on people's houses. And that had nothing to do with clear cutting. That just had to do with what was happening in the world. So
It was a blight.
it was not fun. So I just wanted to share that. Sorry, Ed.
That's okay, thank you. And I did forget one thing. Jim, thank you for mentioning all the people that came up, and especially Paula and Kenny for their work. You know, selfless, tireless, and I don't think it came up, but Paula and Kenny were taking shifts, staying at Michael's house because of his illness and his inability to move around the apartment. So you just don't understand how much love for veterans and there, and you know,
How much love is in this community?
That's true. That's true. And
It's all about Yorktown. That's
it,
the way
it
it's-
really is.
That's what it's about.
And
honestly.
you know, I had the pleasure of sitting down a couple times at Mike's table and talking with him, and you know, 98 years old and sharper than me. So, not, my wife might say that's not that sharp, but no, he was very sharp. But thank you. So that's about it. All right. Shall we move into resolutions?
Yes.
All right. So I am going to recuse myself from this one. Sergio, will you read it? First one. And I did send that into the clerk in writing, as I am a member of the Yorktown Lions.
From the Albert A. Cappellini Community and Cultural Center, I'm going to authorize waiving the rental fee in the amount of $387 for the Yorktown Lions Club to use the Nutrition Center for 8 hours on Saturday, March 16th, 2024.
Motion.
Make a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great, thank you, guys. From the Comptroller's Office, authorize Deputy Supervisor to execute an agreement with Pitney Bowes for the provision of Mail Center 2000 postage meter machine. Authorize the Comptroller to process the following budget transfers for the Lake Mohegan Improvement District. Did Ken leave before the vote? Oh, there you
No,
are.
he's here.
Okay. Sorry, Ken. Authorize the Comptroller to process the following budget transfers to pay Donna Andrews a cash value of unused time, as noted on the sheet. Be it further resolved that the Comptroller is hereby authorized to transfer funds for the purpose of this payout at retirement as follows. Authorize the Comptroller to process the following budget transfer for the museum, and that's part-time help into salaries to cover the conversion from part-time to full-time salary, and very excited to see what happens there. Authorize the Comptroller to process the following budget transfer for the engineering department. Okay. For purpose of reestablishing multiple expenditure budget codes for the 2024 year in each fund. From the Deputy Supervisor's Office, authorize Deputy Supervisor to sign an agreement with Alliance for Safe Kids, Inc. to provide a community-based youth mental health, substance abuse prevention, recovery, and treatment programs. That's something that we started a few years back. They work with our youth. They've also now focusing on drug awareness training, Narcan training, just doing a lot of work in our community that's much needed, almost like a youth bureau, which we unfortunately would not be able to afford, but they're doing the work of a youth bureau with volunteers and one paid member.
And Ed, if you go on their site right now, they're working on how social media is affecting our children today.
Yeah. From the Highway Department, oh, you've been waiting on this, huh, Dave? Authorize the control of the process of following budget transfer for the Highway Department for equipment and professional services for the Old Crampon Covert Fund balance. Authorize the control of the process of following budget transfer for the Highway Department, and this is contingency capital into equipment. From the Human Resource Department.
Don't you want to know what that one's for?
That's for the box for a traffic light, town-owned
Why
traffic
are we
light.
buying an extra?
Because it takes how many months to get
Well,
it?
let's see. How long was the light at Strang and Lee out?
Very long
Very
time.
long
It took
time.
5 months.
5 months.
So
That,
we
that
figured
was
we
that was
may try to have one in abeyance.
that was
when the time
that was
comes.
quick. I think it took longer at Mosman and Hanover.
Oh God, that was like 7 months.
That was,
Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say, it was over 6 months.
So we're going to authorize the deputy supervisor to sign agreement between the town of Yorktown and Driver Safety Training Center for a defensive driving certification, which we are required to do for all of our town drivers. From the Mohegan Lake Improvement District, well, Ken, you got a couple things going, huh? Authorize active members of the Mohegan Lake Improvement District to attend the New York State Federation of Lake Association conferences from May 3rd and 4th, 2024 in Lake George. Still cold up there, Ken, in May.
It'll be beautiful.
From the Police Department, approve CSW ACO Kristen Bowler to attend the annual ACO conference from November 5th and 6th, 2024 in Guilderland, New York, in the beautiful Albany area. From the town clerk, schedule a town board meeting for April 30th, 2024. Since we will be losing 2 board meetings in April, one for the presidential primary and one for the special election, we thought it appropriate to add another. Unfortunately, we can't do the 23rd because you'll be in the beautiful Albany area, won't you? Yes, so a lot of people going to Albany. We are going to set a public hearing to consider a proposed local law known as the Large Scale Energy System Moratorium. And that will be set for Tuesday, March 12th at 7:30 or as soon as thereafter, as can be heard. We're going to set a public hearing to consider a proposed law known as the Smoke Shop Moratorium, also on March 12th. We are going to set a public hearing to consider a proposed local law to amend Chapter 275 of the Town Code entitled Vehicles and Traffic concerning ATVs and e-bikes, and that will be on March 19th. We will set a public hearing to consider a proposed local law to amend Chapter 45 of the Town Code entitled Ethics, and that will be March 19th. And that comes from recommendations from the Ethics Board as well as outside counsel that was hired to look at our ethics law, and we've had the changes, and was that sent out already, Adam? Yeah. So we're awaiting our comments back, and that will be a public hearing on the 19th. Authorize the town clerk to refer out a wetland, stormwater management, and tree permit application submitted in the East of Hudson Watershed Corporation for a stormwater retrofit project. That's the one on 35 we were talking about. We're also going to set a public hearing to consider a wetland, stormwater management, and tree permit submitted by the East of Hudson Watershed Corporation for a stormwater retrofit project. That will also be on March 19th, so wear your pajamas and bring your sleeping bags.
Yeah, we're gonna be a long day.
We will accept the monthly reports from the receiver of taxes for January and February of 2024, and for the town clerk for February of 2024. And may I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, and then what some of you have been waiting for breathlessly, Motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all so much, Yorktown. Have a great night.